with as an actor starting off. In the film, Neil becomes quite obsessed with Bono to the point where he may or may not want to kill him. I don't want to reveal anything. But is that something, if you went for a part, another actor got the same part, did you begin to allow that?
With music, there's something about music where you can sort of make a... Nick Hamm, everybody!
Nick Hamm!
Hello, sorry I'm late. Buses.
Evening.
Buses. Sorry I'm late. Apologies. Good evening.
Good evening, sir.
Nice
How are you?
to meet you.
I'm Chris. How's it
Nice
going?
to
Nice to meet you.
Ben.
Ben, nice to meet you, man.
Ben plays Neil in the film.
Huh?
Ben plays Neil in the film.
I know, I heard that. Did he do good?
Yeah, he did well.
Yeah, great,
he did well. We're just talking about...
I don't know, I was saying something really boring. I'll ask you the first question now.
Let's quickly
feeling
start
the pressure on my own there.
Let's go to a clip first, and we'll come back and talk to Nick afterwards. This is
cool.
a clip in which we see the beginnings of U2, actually. So.
Here with homegrown rock sensations, the hype still sweaty from a blistering live show. So, boys, tell us, where do you see the hype in, say, 5 years' time?
In 5 years, hype will be history.
What? 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 You guys were fucking amazing tonight. You said that this is what you wanted to do forever, like.
Yeah, it is. So we're changing our names to something good.
Oh?
You're looking at U2.
U2.
U2?
That is so... Shite!
Thank you, Neil. I didn't want to say it. It sounds like a bleeding submarine.
We're changing our names.
What? Dave wants to be known as The Edge. What, like Edge Evans or Dave Edge?
Just the Edge.
The Edge of what?
From now on, he's Bono.
Bono! yeah, no, it's good, it's good. I could be, Byro. I could be the head.
Stop taking the piss. At least I'm not the one jumping up and down on stage wearing these. Would you look at the state of them?
Hey! Fucking poser. He likes him.
Fantastic, thank you. Wow, Nick, I have to say, that's Martin McCann playing a very young Bono there. He's uncanny. Can you talk about where you found him?
Actually, I'll tell you, Martin was suggested to me by Pete Postlethwaite, who rang me when we were putting the movie together and said, I want you to meet this extraordinary young actor who I have worked with in Northern Ireland, and his name is Martin McCann. And I said, yeah, and what's he going to do? And he said, well, look, I think he's probably one of the best actors I've worked with, and you should meet him. So I did, and I cast him the day I met him. The afternoon, he came down to the office in Twickenham Film Studios. He came down, I said, look, and at that point, Bono in the movie was just the Bono that you've seen here. In other words, he was the young Bono.
You must have squealed like a schoolgirl when he came in and looked exactly like Bono, and you've been recommended him by Pete Postlethwaite. You must have...
He did a really good audition. He did a good audition.
Brilliant.
He's brilliant in it. And so we added the later parts of the film that are with Bono as an older man. We added those when we were shooting, and as we developed the screenplay, we felt that Bono needed to be more part of the movie. But when I was setting up the picture, the only thing that financiers would ever say to me was, okay, who's playing Bono? Is Bono playing Bono? I said, no, Bono's 48 years old now. He can't play 17. So we're not going to give you the money to make the movie. I was like, okay, so we had to reduce all of Bono's appearances in the picture. So that's how Marty McCann came to play Bono, because Pete Postlethwaite suggested him.
Fantastic. And obviously this is Pete's last film. I know you're very good friends with him going way back. Can you talk about how he came to be in this film? Because it was initially a different role, I believe.
Pete was initially... I knew Pete for a long time. I was at the Royal Shakespeare Company with Pete when I was in my 20s. And we lived together for a long time in that period and worked many years together in the theatre. So, and retained a friendship. And Pete went off to do the great roles he did, which was apparent to all of us. And when we were putting the film together, one of Pete's desires was to make this movie, because there was a sense in which this film is about the notion of celebrity, the notion of success, and how failure can affect you.
Yeah.
And so Pete wanted to be part of it, and he was originally going to play the gangster role. He was going to really play Stanley's role, which is a role that Pete's played many times before. We've all seen him as gangsters. And the insurance, because Pete was rather sick at that moment, wouldn't insure Pete to play that role. So we wrote this new role for him, which is the landlord of the boys, in which he plays a very gay, very camp photographer. And he was a delight to have on set, and both Ben and Robbie were fantastic with him. And it was just a beautiful moment to have him there. And frankly, we were honoured to have him in the movie. And it's a great little tribute for Pete just to see him do a little comic turn.
Yeah. And Ben, can you talk about working with Pete?
It was incredible. I was so very excited when Nick said that he was going to be playing this part, and I thought that's such a strange and wonderful choice for that part. But at the time, I didn't know he was unwell, and then Nick sort of prepared us before for the fact that he might be a bit frail, and he came in and he was very unwell. And it was kind of very bittersweet because it all felt very kind of poignant. We were working in this very cold warehouse in January in Belfast, and it was very hard for him to work for more than 10, 15 minutes at a time without needing a rest. But Nick was trying to do everything to make him comfortable and say, okay, you're going to lounge in this soft velvety armchair for this scene, and he would say, no, I think we should be walking up and down the stairs in this scene, and would just do everything he could to make it as good as possible. And he said to me, I'm 64 years old and I've never played a character like this, really camp character like this, and I'm having so much fun. And I think that's so admirable to be still kind of challenging yourself after everything that he'd achieved in his life and how many accolades and how Steven Spielberg has said of him he was the best actor he's ever worked with, which is an incredible thing.
And that event that Ben's referring to, this is classic Pete. Pete never regarded himself as a movie star, even though he was one of the best film actors and the greatest movie stars this country has ever produced. He never wanted any of that. He was an actor. He practiced his trade. That was what he did. He was no different from a butcher or a doctor or a dentist. That's what he did. He didn't want any opinions about it. And the event that Ben is referring to is a moment when we were working. Pete was patently sick. He patently couldn't work for long periods of time. So I restaged one of the scenes in the film. And before Pete came on set, and I put a chair there and I said, Pete, you're going to sit there and the boys are going to sit next to you and they're going to be part of this. And Pete Postlethwaite stood up and said, no, Nick, that's not the way the scene is dramatised. I'm going to and so he rejected the very idea of making him comfortable. And to his last moments, he was involved in seeking the truth in what was there on the scene, and involved in seeking what he thought was the best thing for the movie. And that says everything about Pete Postlethwaite.
And there's a wonderful moment in the film, which watching it now is probably the hardest part for me to watch, which is he has a line as Carl, when we've been renting off him in this warehouse, we rent this room off him, and we sort of become friends with him. And when we leave to finally go on tour, the sort of big moment, he says a word from the wise, a word of advice from an old man before you go. At the end of the day, the mark of a man is what's left when fame falls away. And he did this a couple of times. He was kind of looking straight in your eyes when he said it, and it felt very much like Pete Postlethwaite giving advice to two sort of young actors instead of this character. And it should be, I mean, I've said this a bit in the last few days, but it should be an obvious skill for an actor to be able to sort of look at somebody and tell you something and for it to feel like the truth. Yeah. I mean, that's essentially what acting is, but not a lot of actors have that skill in the way that he has it to make anything sound profound. And I think he was such an honest actor, and that's why I think he was so brilliant, and why it was so brilliant to be around. And in between takes, I would also, when we were sitting, he was sitting with his cup of tea and gloves and scarf, which he'd then take off for the. I was teaching him how to play Scrabble on the iPhone.
Did you win?
He never really kind of got it. I would play a lot with Robbie, but he just wanted to know how it worked because he's got a curious mind,
I imagine he knew a lot of big words.
Oh, he knew how to play Scrabble, but I was teaching him how to move the tiles, with the touchscreen.
Okay, fair enough.